there's 17 Sustainable Development Goals that they've announced to demonstrate the scale and ambition of the new universal agenda. 1. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. They're not even going to start to try to do that. End hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture, that is code for genetically modified food. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. That's why alternative practitioners and access to nutrition is being deleted, so that the only alternatives are big pharma, drugs and potions. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Program the population with your version of reality. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Get women and girls to support this, believing it is about equality for them when they couldn't give a damn. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Control all water supplies. That's in other documents. Control the water, you control the people. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. No way that they want energy for all. And sustainable means our version of energy. And controlling energy and energy consumption via things like smart meters, which are just surveillance devices in your own home and business. Promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. Control business and tell people where they're going to work. It's from Agenda 21. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. Sustainable industrialization means deindustrialization. Reduce inequality with and among countries. Last thing they want. Otherwise there's no elite. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. These are the human settlement zones they're talking about. Sustainable surveillance, sustainable control. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Dictate lifestyles. Dictate people's lives, dictate people's choices. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. Use that as an excuse to transform society. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources for sustainable development. Control the oceans, control the seas and control all marine life and access to it. Protect, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Control the manage forests means control the forests, own the forests, and the rest of it means take over the land and dictate what happens to it, i.e. we're removing people from it into the human settlement zones in using the excuse of protecting the environment. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. Institutions are the elements of the control system. And promoting peaceful societies, in other words, we're going to have a police state. So the people will have to be peaceful, but the police state's not going to be. Finally, 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Strengthen the means of implementation. Impose global control through a world government and agencies going down into even local communities, imposing the will to implement all this in its true sense, not the way they're describing it. This article says Patrick Wood, an economist and author of Technocracy Rising, the Trojan Horse of Global Transformation, says it's clear that the UN and its supporters see sustainable development as more than just the way to a cleaner environment. I don't even see that. They see it as the vehicle for creating a long-sought new international economic order or new world order. Wood's new book traces the modern technocracy movement to Zbigniew Brzezinski. I do that in my own books. David Rockefeller and the Trilateral Commission in the early 1970s. Trilateral Commission again, you see. And he says the environment is a perfect vehicle for the elite to use to bring in their version of utopia, because just about every possible form of human activity affects the environment in some way. Ultimately, they hope to centrally plan and strictly regulate virtually everything that we do, and we will be told what is necessary that it is necessary to save the planet. Absolutely, exactly what is going on. They'll never come out, the article says, and call it a new world order, because sustainable development sounds so much nicer and is so much more acceptable to the general population. Needless to say, there wouldn't be much room for individual liberty, none, in fact, freedom or anything else of the kind. In fact, the UN's #1 sustainable development official has essentially publicly admitted this by saying this is probably the most difficult task we have ever given ourselves, which is to intentionally transform the economic development model for the first time in human history. This is the first time in the history of mankind, he says, that we are setting ourselves the task of intentionally, within a defined period of time, as quick as possible, change the economic development model that has been reigning for at least 150 years since the Industrial Revolution, the post-industrial society. And the article quotes another guy, Paul Maguire, co-author of a book called The Babylon Code, Solving the Bible's Greatest End Times Mystery, who says this: deep inside every man and woman is the longing for a far better world, a world without war, disease, death, and pain. Our present world is a cruel world in which every life ends in death. From the beginning of time, mankind has sought to use science and technology to create a perfect world, what some would call utopia or paradise. As the human race began to organize itself, a scientific or technocratic elite arose to power by promising the masses that they could build this perfect world. Ancient Babylon represented the first historical attempt to build paradise on earth. In ancient times, the quote says, Babylon was the first attempt to create a type of global government, and ever since then the global elite have been trying to recreate the Babylon model. The promise is always the same. The elite swear that they have finally figured out how to create a perfect society without poverty or war. But in the end, all of these attempts at utopia always end up degenerating into extreme forms of tyranny. Absolutely the case. And what Agenda 2030, Agenda 21 are about is taking that onto a global level. And this scientific or technocratic elite is the network of bloodlines that I've been exposing all these years. And the article goes on, actually bringing us back to Babylon. On September 25th, the Pope is traveling to New York to give the opening address at the conference where the 2030 agenda will be launched. He will be urging all of humanity to support what the UN is trying to do. There are countless millions that implicitly trust the Pope, and they will buy what he is selling hook, line and sinker. And who is the Pope? The Pope is the head of the Roman Church. And what is the Roman Church? It is the, as I show in the books, it is the Church of Babylon relocated. It's just been going on and on and on, century after century,